Hello and welcome into SorareData Office Hours. I'm Andrew Lairdinho. Find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joining me while still trying to hit a basket is maximehg, CEO of Podium, founder of SorareData, and still really struggling on that hoop at home.
No, I wanted to intro in style, but yeah, didn't make it.
We could have a segment later where we just all watch and see how many it takes me to make it.
Well, I made one during the intro.
That's what everyone says.
So yeah,
And he's calling you Maxime Airball Hagenberger.
Yeah, sure. How's it going, Andrew?
ZM Star first in. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to everybody who is here. Maxime, I wanted to. Oh, there you go. Germ said you got to get the hoop off camera, and then you can just pretend like you hit it, and we would be none the wiser. But we're all here for truth and transparency here at SorareData. That's why he couldn't possibly hide the hoop and just pretend. But anyway, Maxime, we obviously have been working on another NFT game with DraftKings Rainmakers over at Rainmetrics, and it's given us kind of another view of how NFT fantasy games can work. And we keep coming back to like, oh, Sorare could do this or Sorare could do that. And one of the big ones that we keep kind of going back to is how the cards change, or the card utility changes season to season. And we thought that maybe that's something that Sorare could do at some point, even though they are very clear of, that our cards will have utility forever. But what do you want to at least explain to everybody kind of how at least DraftKings works, and then we can go from there.
And I would clarify something first, Andrew. They say they will have utility, but what utility is the real question, right? So for those not familiar with DraftKings and Rainmakers, so you basically buy packs of collectibles, or you buy collectibles on the secondary market of like NFL players could do that. You can do that for golf and UFC also, to enter contests. Contests are pretty similar to Sorare tournaments, because you have to have there are like 5 different scarcities over there, and so you have to have like 5. The main difference is that, for example, if you play limited, let's say All-Star Limited, you can play like super rares in the limited competition. They don't care, but they don't have like a bonus compared to like limited cards. But basically, so they this is the second season of Rainmakers and football, and so they have a whole year of collectibles already. But they have dedicated contests for those collectibles, and they are like not well rewarded compared to 2023 contests. And so their like philosophy is to basically have a contest with only 2023 or current season collectibles, which is completely different from what Sorare is doing. But like it has so many impacts in terms of like supply, because if you want to have like a 2023 contest only, for example, on Sorare, you would have to sell a lot of cards at the beginning of the season, and you can't necessarily do that because of like you can't print the cards because you don't necessarily have the face of the players, and also some players move during like the transfer window that ends on September 1st, so it's very complicated to do that. But yeah, it's a very different model, and I guess it's very easy to say, and I'm not taking any risk there, that it's much more profitable and much more sustainable for DraftKings than the current model for Sorare.
We are seeing a little bit more of a push for new season cards on Sorare. Like we always had the 5% new season bonus, and it did feel like those did have some sort of price premium at the beginning of the seasons because people get that 5% for so long, and it gives them longer to grow the XP. But reference, I'm like now referencing the new Premier League special weekly that they just came out with, which they call a special weekly, even though it's over 3 weeks. So it's like a special weeklies, but it requires 3 new season cards in your 5-player lineup. So it is at least pushing more people to buy those. But it's almost the opposite of how DraftKings does their contest, in that their main contests are new season cards. And then they'll have like other contests for their 2022s, which, like you said, are much different or much smaller reward wise than the 2023s. And so I don't think Sorare can ever truly make that move of like saying all of our contests now you need to have new season cards. But it does seem like ultimately the point is to make brand new cards more attractive. And I think the collection game helped out with that a little bit. I was talking to somebody just how much easier it is to build a new season collection through auctions, and those obviously get bought by from Sorare, excuse me. But ultimately, like, that isn't that the $4.6 billion question of like, how do we just get people to buy, people who have cards to make the further decision to buy new season cards as well?
Yeah, I mean, so it's the whole debate launched by the the fitness announcement and an announcement, let's say. I mean, it's how do you make sure that you're not paying like 50% of auction revenue in SO5 competitions, right? Or how do you make sure that at the end of the day, you're a profitable company? I
Sure.
would not say that they need to be profitable today, but I would say that they should have a plan towards profitability in the, I don't know, next years at least. And so it requires changes to, so you could easily say, well, the first thing I need is more users, right? That is true. If you get more users, then you sell more cards, and probably some cards, especially like super rares and rare cards, would be like priced a bit higher progressively, so you would make more money out of that. So there's your first like answer to your $4 billion question is I need more users, right? But what if you're plateauing at a number of users that is like what we are doing right now? Basically, we're plateauing around like 250K owners of at least one NFT. Growth is not that fast. It has been slow the past 6 months, let's say. So how do you make sure that your business model is healthy enough that you don't like spend all the cash that you have by rewarding people that are not paying for your cards? Because the problem is like you would be fine spending like 50% of your revenue on a SO5 competition if you would reward the people that were actually paying for cards. But the fact is, most of the people that are winning cards right now or winning stuff on Sorare are not even giving money to the platform. See Sean, I love Sean. I wish him well during his during this period, but I think he's not investing in the platform. I think he has at some point like given a lot of money to Sorare, but is not like buying cards from Sorare, or the money that he's giving to Sorare is basically giving it back to them because it's based on reward that he actually won. And I speak about Sean, but it's obviously me. It's obviously like most of the OGs, let's say, that are doing that. And I don't think that Sorare is doing a good enough job at like making us pay for rewards, because at the end of the day, that's what they should be doing. Make sure that the people that are getting the rewards are paying enough money to get them.
Yeah, no, I think fundamentally that's what it comes down to, that we are the biggest problems in terms of we are accounts that bought cards a while ago and are still winning new cards now, and not necessarily, it's not even so much, if we win a card and we sell it and we put that back into the platform, it's not new money. It's just the money it's Sorare's money just going back to them. And so from their point of view, it's great for the users. It feels great because you're like, oh, I can get all this new stuff. I didn't have to do anything. But ultimately, if, like you said, if there's not a continued growth of users, they then need to figure out a way to make us spend that money. Mike Basson brought up 2 points here. Obviously, prioritizing new season cards and saying that your old cards don't. It was absolutely a complete 180 by Sorare. After pushing holding cards was important. It is kind of funny that we have XP, which allows us to, the longer we hold cards, the more XP we get, and we're not supposed to list them while we play them, so we want to hold them then. But then, now they're telling us to do that. Mike was also wondering how much Sorare lose to multi-accounting reward scrapers, which I never think it's really that much money. It seems like the cards they're giving away for that, I don't know, didn't seem like enough to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's that big. I would say there are a lot of multi-accounts out there. I think there are way more than we actually think there are. But I'm not sure it's that big of a problem in terms of I think it's a problem in terms of fairness towards users that are playing the game fairly. But I don't think it's a problem in terms of revenue.
Metal Gear said, if we're actively trading a good volume, Sorare is still winning from the tax on the sales, even if you don't deposit nonstop, which again is not really new money though. If I win a card and I sell it, I get that ETH, even if I buy that, but it's Sorare's 5% is
they're just getting back some of the ETH that they're distributing themselves. But the metric that everyone should be looking at is not the number of people or the number of account buying cards. It's the number of fresh money that is going into the platform every day. Fresh money is I'm being paid for something, then I will deposit that money on Sorare and I will spend it on Sorare. And that's the metric everyone should be looking at. Obviously, I don't think it's easy to have it, and I don't think that we want to make it public or they want to make it public. But I think that's, at the end of the day, that's the golden metric. It's not about well, obviously it's about new accounts, but it's especially about how much they are spending on the game. And if you make sure that your current user base also is spending some money during the season, that's also important. And I think that there are multiple mechanisms. So we talked about cosmetics, which I think are big things to implement. But also I think that season passes are something that they should explore. I think that it's basically how every video game works. That is some kind of free to play, because Sorare is free to enter. Basically, you can enter every competition for free. You can argue that you need NFTs, etc. For sure, but the thing is, once you have all those NFTs, you don't need to. You can basically free roll on the platform, and so season passes with benefits, obviously, are a great way to actually upsell your current user base.
What do you think of this idea from Surface? Actually, there's really 2 parts of this, but the first one is to sell sponsorships for every competition and use that sponsorship money to pay out the ETH prizes, and then transition to no card rewards and all ETH.
Yeah, also that's a great point in terms of maximizing your revenue, right? So because I think one of the biggest problem they have also is most of the cards that they are issuing are not sold, they are distributed as rewards. And this has been a problem for the past I don't know, 6 months or even more. And I think also the problem is people don't realize how Tuesdays and Fridays are affecting the card supply, and actually are bad for the the overall economy of the game. Obviously, players are not responsible for that. I'm not saying that, but like when you're issuing like when 50% of the cards that you're issuing are like free cards, well, you're missing out on so many revenue because the only revenue that Sorare can make basically right now is by selling cards. And if you're like depreciating the value of your cards by just giving them away for free, whatever the reason why you're giving them away, but well, you're missing out on so much revenue.
I think it's one of those things that we've mentioned previously on this show, but I don't think not anyone, but I think a lot of people just don't grasp what it means when Sorare, looking back here at game week 403, when Sorare on a Tuesday adds almost 14,000 limiteds and almost 3,500 rares and 337 super rares to the ecosystem and made no money from those cards. And so Ben Johnson said it might be a silly question, but is the over 100 ETH a day that Sorare make from auctions enough for them to be sustainable?
No.
And the answer is no.
Absolutely not. And like let's just do the math so that I think everyone needs to have the same context and the same at least agree on what's happening right now. So Sorare has made $150 million of revenue in 2022 and in 2021. So it was pretty stable. So 150 million. So on all sports. And so 150 million in 2021 was football only. So imagine like the crazy bull market that we lived during that period, right? And with way less license than today. So okay.
Yeah.
So let's say that they make today 150K per day. Okay. That's pretty much what they do right now. So I'm talking about euros. That would be 55 million euros on the year. So you're like 3 times less than what you were making last year. So no, it's absolutely not sustainable. And you could say, well, they're making like 5% on the offer on the secondary market. Sure, but we can say that it's on average 3 times the volume of like the secondary market is on average like 3 times the volume of the auction market. So that's 450K, and that's 5% of that. So that's 22K, around 22K of taxes every day. So you add that to your 150K, and you have 172 that you multiply by 365, and you get to like around like 63 millions. So obviously you would have good days, you would also have bad days, but you're looking at like revenue that is like at least divided by 2 this year. And so in the same time, like rewards have not decreased. So you could argue that coming from like all-star rare thresholds and cap 240, there's a difference and stuff like that. But they committed on the fact that they wanted to distribute the same amount of money, but differently than before. So you distribute the same amount of money in 2022 than in 2023, but you're making twice as less money.
Oh yeah, twice.
So, I mean, there's no way it's sustainable. And I don't think it was sustainable in 2022 because it put us in the situation that if your revenue was falling, and it is falling right now, well, what's your defense mechanism? It doesn't exist right now. You don't have like a defense mechanism against like, I don't know, like another 9/11 where every like market crashes and people like in a recession and stuff like that. That can happen, and that can have an impact. Or a COVID again. What happens if like, of course, these are like doomsday scenario, but these happened at some point in time. But you don't have at least like a basic like defense mechanisms against like market crashes and say, okay, so the market is crashing right now. We might be responsible for it. We might not, but we need to protect the revenue that we're making And today they are not.
I think the biggest misconception is the secondary market fees and how much money they make them. And I'm glad that you just went through the numbers there. But I think it's important to consider that for taking 5% of every secondary market transaction is different than getting 100% of every auction. And granted, that doesn't even, we haven't even talked about the fact that they don't make every dollar or every,
exactly.
Like you have to pay for your licenses, and sometimes they get a percentage. How we don't know how those license agreements work, but a lot of them work in a way that you'll get a certain percentage of the revenue that's generated from that. So even these big numbers that we use aren't what's going directly to Sorare.
Because some of the cards are not affected by the 5% tax. So not all the volume is affected by the 5% tax. And so I think that since they are they are applying it on some cards only, that means that most of the tax is going back to the clubs when they apply it. So that means that it's basically not money that they make, actually. It's money that they redistribute to clubs. And yeah, when you auction a card, you have to pay for licensing, you have to pay for employees. So you're making 100% of it, but you're not making money out of it yet.
Surface is wondering how 60 million in revenue per year is not enough for a 100-person company.
Yes, so that's true. You could say that, but the problem is not 100%. The problem is your stakeholders and your basically your right holders. So the Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, the NBA, the MLB, and I'm based on the numbers that we've seen going out in the press. I think I'm conservative when I say that I think licensing fees are probably north of 50 million a year. And when you say that, you get the whole point. It's you have to pay your salaries, you have to pay offices, you have to pay servers, you have to pay everything. And I don't think we can say that Sorare is a profitable company as a whole today.
How do we fix it?
And I didn't even mention the 20 million or so. I don't know what's the real number, but it's probably I don't know. Well, it's at least millions. I think it probably around 10 millions, 10 to 20 millions that you're redistributing through SO5 rewards.
Like the value that they're not recognizing, basically.
No, but it's you're making let's say you're making 60 million a year. You have to pay I don't know, 50 million in licensing. Then you have to pay 10 million in rewards in SO5 tournaments, and that's it. You're done. And you have to your employees to pay, etc. So I guess that people should not care about the amount that has been raised in 2021, because I think that this amount was meant to actually get deals at that time that were in a market that was completely insane, and I think the numbers matched that insanity. And so I don't think that saying, oh, but they're fine, there is I don't know, 680 million at that point. I'm not sure that we should take that as a guarantee that they will have money for the 10,000 next years. But anyway, how do we fix that? That's a good question. So yeah, so you have I mean, I'm not a magician, and probably I will say most of the things I will say are flawed. But so first thing is, how do you get new users, right? Because you want new users, because it will have a positive impact on the market. It would increase the prices of all cards. So how do you get new users? Right? So you make commercials. So you say to the Premier League, put us in front of every player, FPL player that you have, and make sure that they see that Sorare exists. And that's what they're doing right now. And I think that they've done this for the past years, also in stadiums, like being shown in major stadiums around the world. So it's brand awareness, right? Also, you will have like at some point TV commercials and stuff like that, like mainstream commercials where you would use your ambassadors that you paid, I guess, a great amount for. Well, yeah, and yeah, that's right. When we will see Messi and Mbappe posting about that, but I don't actually. We can discuss that later, but I don't think that's actually the thing that you need. But we can discuss on that later. So new users. You can also say, okay, I have like a passionate community, a dedicated community. They would love to pay for some stuff that we are not proposing today. What can we do to actually make sure that those our users are paying us more money for what we provide? So that's making like more collectible cards, like special editions and stuff like that. I think you can make some money out of that. I think that like pushing for like more innovative cards, so that's what they're doing with 3D cards. But like I wouldn't say action poses, but like gold poses and stuff like that. I think that that's something you can explore. But also cosmetics, like adding some stuff to your cards that could be interesting. And I think some players would be interested in like showing their fandom through their cards. So upselling your upselling your current user base, so through cosmetics or through your gameplay, and affecting your gameplay by saying, oh, but you guys are free rolling on the house for so long, we are going to stop this right now, and we're going to introduce a mechanism, so you can call it a fitness mechanism, but I would say like more like end of life mechanisms, I would say. Like, I don't think that's fair. I've seen. I went to Bellamag's gallery today, and the card with that won the most rewards for Bellama is Mbappe with 69. Mbappe limited with 69 rewards, and I don't think that's fair for a card to yield that many rewards. And I have a Vanaken with like 43 or 44 rewards. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's fair for other players, but I don't think that's fair for Sorare to to enable me to actually like win that much. You don't agree with that?
No, I was looking that card up, and so Bellama spent 1.77 ETH on that Mbappe because it's the one of 1,000. Like, I'm assuming nobody has ever paid more for an Mbappe than that card. 53. Somebody spent more at some point. My God. So at least in dollars, maybe in ETH, it's still.
It's close.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, it didn't refresh.
Anyway, so I get it. Like, I get you shouldn't be able to win that much with this card, but he also spent a ton on this card. And so It almost feels like it's okay, but obviously you can't have a game where how much you win is determined on how much you paid for your card.
Exactly.
But what do you think do you think, obviously there's going to be a backlash because there's always a backlash for a change like this, but what if they really did start to separate new season competitions to...
I don't think you can actually do that. I don't think you can actually like use the new season cards as like a protection, let's say, and as like your way to make to ensure significant revenue. I think it should be based on the number of participations, or at least that's my idea right now. And I didn't give like more than 2 hours of thought about that. But I think it should be based on like the number of participations in SO5 of a single card. And I think that you should be able to play like, I don't know, 40 times, 50 times, at least like match like the number of games that happen in a season. You could like say, oh, so I know, Nantes last year played the most games in Europe, like as a team. And I think it was like 56
a
or
lot, yeah.
57. It was a lot because we went through the National Cup also. And so you could say when you buy a card, you have like a guaranteed, like, I don't know, 55 or 50, let's say, that's our number, 50 utilizations in SO5, right? And I don't uses, sorry. And you could say that like the power, or I don't know what, decreases to over time, or you could say that as long as you have those 50 uses remaining, or some uses remaining, you still have the same power. And you could say at the end, okay, so now you have used your card for 50 times. You can say basically, I recycle it in my collection. You could do that. You could say, I burned the card and that gives me like a collection bonus, or it gives me like a memorabilia in my collection and stuff like that. And it still affects your other cards, but it does not affect like you don't have the right to play with those anymore. Or you can make like like a all-star legend competition or stuff like that, where you can play with this card but this card only, for example. Or you can say you can spend X dollars or X euros and you can get another 50 users. I think that at least this kind of model make sure that you get money out of cards that are played every single tournament. And right now, like a Kimmich that was bought, my Kimmich, I bought it like in the first wave of Bayern cards. I played it like I don't know, hundreds of times, and I'm not paying a single penny because of this card.
So there are a few comments here that all kind of cuts on this. One of them, where did that one go? Johanneton said, and I think this was your number, a maximum number of times you could use the card. Says that would kill the game, Maxime. You should be able to play your card until he retires. Like, we are actively working with another game that does this and has not killed the game. Like, I think it would kill Sorare's. I think existing users would be furious. Like, it would kill it.
Yeah, exactly. And again,
there's a sustainable game with this.
I'm not saying that it's what they should do. If you like look at the overall context, the overall message they've been like saying for the past years, etc., the own your game philosophy and stuff like that, we're only talking about like sustainability, right? Like if you would build, let's say you have all those licensing agreements now, and you have to build a new game. Would you do what Sorare is doing right now? That's the question I'm asking. It's, do you think that is a sustainable model? And again, because sometimes you are going to have like periods where you're going to get a lot of new users that are going to pay a lot of money to get in, but sometimes you're going to have like very slow periods where your market is going to slowly decrease or slowly or crash even at some times, and you as a company have to make sure that you can at least not lose a lot of money during these times.
Courtside was saying, isn't this what the fitness XP is supposed to solve? And yes, I think that's exactly what.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Well, it's supposed to solve that, but you have like so many different ways to actually do that. I don't think like 50 users of a card is like that aggressive, but I think like fitness bonuses are way more aggressive than like a number of users of a card.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this separately, and you were like, to have a maximum number of uses for a card. And I mean, I think I, like everyone else, would be like, over my dead body, you're going to do that. But when you start looking at it from, if we were starting this game today, it's absolutely what you should do.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least,
I mean, you still can't go back and change it completely, but like that is definitely the from the company standpoint, the most sustainable way.
Yeah, because I guess like, the thing is, I think they will never do that because they have said for so long that you own your game, you're going to play with your card forever. But the problem is it's not priced in the cards at all. When you buy a card today, I'm pretty sure that you're not pricing the 5 years utility or the 10 years utility.
Who isn't?
Like the market. Do you think the market is pricing, like right now, the market is pricing the fact that you're going to be able to enter this card in competitions for the next 10 years? I don't think so.
I agree with you. I don't think anybody is realistically thinking that far.
Yeah. And I don't like blame people for not thinking about that. It's, if they don't think about that when they buy a card, that's probably bad marketing or bad explanations or whatever, but it's probably not their fault. But the thing is, if it's not priced and if Sorare is not making money out of it, then you don't have like a sustainable model and a sustainable company.
Right. One of the questions, which I don't know if I can't think of this off the top of my head, but we saw something recently. But what's the most expensive card on Rainmakers versus Sorare? There were a few last week that were like 5-digit Rainmaker card. Like one was like 25,000 or something like that.
Yeah, but they don't have like, and again, it's completely different because you have like the collectible aspect is completely different because, well, you can keep your cards, but you can also burn them to get more to get like new cards, and you don't have like unique cards. You have like collections with like 4 Rainmakers cards inside, and so you have 1 year of utility. Collectible aspect is different, but you still have like I can try to have like the highest amount. I think you have like cards that are sold easily in the 50K or the 20 to 30K range.
And most of those are secondary market sales because they're mostly rewards, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, not rewards,
Well,
but pack opening. But they also have auctions where you can actually buy a card on auction.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. I keep scrolling through, but I can't find.
So like
that is.
I have a
40K
sale September 7th, and 32K September 12th. So it's not like 250K like Mbappe, but because you don't have like 10 years of utility, and also you have to think about like DraftKings say basically at the start of the season we're going to give away 30 million this year, and they say we're going to give away X million in those contests, is X million in those contests. So when you're spending money there, you can basically say, or if you're looking at return on investment and stuff like that, you can basically say, I'm spending that because I think I can win that.
Yeah. Nanzo said the assumption that nerfing utility will result in people buying new cards is flawed. Existing users will just leave the platform, which Andy agreed and said, if they started the game like suggested, I would have never assume others are similar. I don't know. I feel like it's because we are so used to the whole own your game, play this card forever. I don't know if everybody would have just said, no, I wouldn't join something where I have to buy a new card every year. There are also easier pathways to getting new season cards. Like you can burn on DraftKings, like you could burn 2022 cards to get 2023s. So it's not like you are completely out of it once the 2022 season is over.
No, but so I don't necessarily agree with Black and Nenzo, and I think that Black saying that is because Black is like a sentimental person and he likes owning stuff and he doesn't like selling stuff. And so I agree that probably would have never came, and that's fine. But I'm pretty sure they will never do something like I mentioned, like 10 minutes ago, like a maximum number of uses for a card or whatever, which you can override if you pay. That's what I'm saying also. But it's like you have to pay to actually get like more uses for a card. They can't do that because that's not what they've been saying for like years. And if you go back on that, it's not like a gameplay or sustainability issues. It's like a trust issue. It's like basically saying, well, you're going to play with that Mbappe for the next 10 years, that's extraordinary and stuff like that on your game. And then, well, you know what? Not sure anymore because it's not that great for us because we're giving away too many rewards. It's just not possible. I don't think it is. So when you eliminate the possibility of like fitness bonuses or stuff like that, then you have to think of like sponsorships. That's what like Surface suggested. Cosmetics, season passes. But I don't think those models work unless you have like a crazy good product, because I don't think like you will make millions through cosmetics unless they are like exceptional. And I don't think like dealing with right holders and stuff like that, that's an easy task to actually accomplish. And in terms of scalability also, I don't think that's very easy to do. So yeah, I think that's the solutions are not there. Or you can also like just like reduce the number of rewards that you're giving away each week. That will not go towards customer satisfaction also. So I guess like you don't have a lot of choices.
Fling Flong said they should just do ads, because that's how all websites monetize. No other way to make money.
We don't do ads yet. Yeah, I guess sponsorships or ads work, but they don't work in terms of like making sure you have like a stable, I don't know, like revenue directly coming from your users. You depend on advertisements, and I guess sponsorships or partnerships make sense. I'm not sure about like ads, especially on computers, on desktops, maybe on mobile. But don't you think it's like kind of flawed to actually like include ads on Sorare while you're like making money, making millions selling cards? Not flawed, but it looks like weird to me.
It is odd. Like, I can't think of any other basic retail situations where you are on a site to buy something and you are being targeted to buy something elsewhere. Like, Sorare doesn't want something on their site where you're like, you're there and you're like, I'm here to buy cards. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, do you need new sneakers? And you're like, I do need new sneakers. And you click that, and now you leave Sorare and you completely forget about the card you want to buy. Like, that's not
exactly. I think it does make sense for like free-to-play models and stuff like that, but I guess partnerships like tournaments sponsored by brands, I do think that makes sense.
I think it makes sense, but it's also extremely volatile, I guess. Like, if you have one and you're like, you do this for a month and then they can't find another one.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, this competition doesn't exist anymore.
Well, it does, but it's like renaming All-Star in like the Nike division. But it's I don't know, Adidas or Puma.
I'm just saying, but if you're using that as your revenue to pay for the rewards.
Yeah, that's true. But you wouldn't actually do that. You would say, I'm using this money from the partnerships to actually make sure that I can pay rewards. But if you don't find partnerships, you just pay them on your own. I guess that makes sense. But I think like it would be funny to have like a venture capitalist with us and ask what would be their reaction to like Sorare actually like proposing that. I don't think investors are attracted by these kinds of revenue streams, and that plays a role also in the governance of Sorare. I mean, I don't think Nicolas Julia makes decisions on his own anymore.
Germ was asking if there could be a negative percentage bonus for old season mints, which is like literally counter to XP. But I do think that is the easiest solution in order to, because it would be, your 2021 card has negative whatever it is, pay us to make it not be that case every season. And I think,
but does that make you buy another card?
I think it's less about buying another card and more about paying them to keep your card healthy.
Yeah, I guess that's the whole point. I mean, that's why the fitness bonus, in terms of like, if you put aside the fact that probably users will be mad and will run away from your platform if you introduce that, if you manage to keep them, I guess that like this kind of mechanisms is like a kind of golden revenue stream that you would be looking at.
Metal Gear said, why is there searching for a solution only milking and restricting the current users? It is obvious that they need to find a field with a whale potential in it and not free to play and kid users mostly. We're not saying this is the only path.
Yeah.
Like obviously more users is how they get more money. Like more users is definitely it. But if users slow, you need to find another way to make money.
We should have like a sign saying, we already talked about new users, but we're not marketing experts, so we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, actually, like that's why we did not talk about the sustainability of the Sorare ecosystem before, because like before we had so many new users, so many new licensing agreements, and so everything went well, and we were like, yeah, to the moon. But when the party stops, that's when you have to actually look at it.
Right. Yeah. Nothing about it was us saying new users weren't. We know that new users, so lots of new users solves a lot of problems.
Well, it creates other problems, but yeah.
Yeah. Fling Fong said the whole point about Sorare is it's an immersive football game. Caring about players' utility through the years, potential, etc., are all considerations that are reflected in prices today. DraftKings is very different, which I don't disagree with.
So I don't disagree in the fact that DK is very different, and I agree with that 100%. But I don't think that the market is pricing what I don't know who the name of the who said that. I don't think that like the market is pricing what the message was saying, and that's the whole problem. Because like,
just as he starts making his point. Hold on.
Am I okay? Am I back? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
France has not like stable internet anymore. No, I don't know what happened. But yeah, so what I was saying is that imagine you had a number next to Mbappe's card saying, here's the yield you can expect from Mbappe over like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Would I guess people would like spend more money on Mbappe? If it says like you can be so the average yield for an average like Mbappe owner is like X, and it's like, I don't know, 1,000 euros every year, or I don't know what. And you say you can make like 10K out of rewards from Mbappe's lineups over the next 10 years based on like historical data, right? Would that make you pay more money for a card? Like, let's say that you paid like, I don't know, 50, I don't know, what's the price of like a pretty good card, but not like the best card. Let's say, I don't know, well, Island, for example, it's a pretty good card, but it's not the best, but it's a pretty good card. do you think people would pay way more than 2,600 euros today if you can show to them that they can expect a return of like, I don't know, 10K over 10 years?
They should. I think so. There were like a number of comments before about how we were saying that the time frame to pay off a card isn't really built into the price, and all of these people were commenting that like obviously they are. Like the card of a 33-year-old player will be lower than that of a comparable scoring 20-year-old. Like we know that. The difference is I don't think people think that far ahead. They think, oh, I can have this card forever. I've got 10 years of utility, but nobody's thinking I'm going to need 10 years to pay this card off, or I'm going to need 5 years, and then the next 5 I'm good. Like nobody thinks that way. Or if they do, it's a significant minority. And if we had that, like if we really thought it would take 10 years or it will take 4 years for you to make this back, I don't think anybody would play. Like I think that's a realistic time frame, and nobody is willing to accept that.
So if you had a metric that say you can pay this back in 4 years, you would pay less than if it says you can pay this back in like 2 years?
Sure. Yeah, I think if you can make your money back faster, you would pay more for it. But I don't think people are buying cards thinking like they think they're thinking this of I have 10 years of utility, but they're not actually thinking of the returns over those 10 years. It's how much can I make right away, and then I can just free ride after that.
I think when I don't buy like a 32 or a 33-year-old, is that not like worried about not making returns on SO5, but I'm worried about not selling the card at all. And I think like people are more focused on like the ability to sell a card in the future rather than like what they can make out of the card. Because like your SO5 like results are random, let's say, and they depend on a lot of things, when you can be pretty sure that like a 33-year-old will decrease in price over time, and you're pretty certain of that. So you're like reluctant to actually pay for a 33-year-old, not based on like the SO5 returns, but based on the fact that you're probably not going to be able to sell that card.
Bros Canseco said, I'm in venture capital, private equity. They need to grow the user base. They need to focus on doing better at that, and only that.
Yeah, I do agree. Well, that should be their primary focus. But I mean,
of course it is.
Well,
but it can't be the only focus.
Yeah, because like, what happens the next time you actually like get new users? Yes, we know we need more. No, but they should be doing that. But what happens the next time they like get like, I don't know, we get to 500,000 users and we get to a plateau again? What happens then?
That's the point. Like at some point that you're just not going to have more users. You're not going to have 1 billion users. It just doesn't happen.
Then the Earth, then the galaxy.
Right. Yeah. Why don't we have more users from Saturn?
Make your dog play Sorare now.
I love some of these suggestions here. ZM started, they clearly need a Sorare Amazon affiliate link. SGD said to watch a Pfizer ad before opening my rewards. Buy an Mbappe, get 20% Ozempic coupon. Andy Black, gonna watch a 60-second mobile game ad before I set my All-Star Rare Pro line. That's what we want, right? If that can keep Sorare stable, we're good.
Wow, yeah, why not? But people would people prefer that then? Well, I guess then you can sell season passes that say no ads for you. Because I'm definitely not watching ads before setting my lineups.
Surface said, if we assume that each person looks at each lineup entered once, which seems very low, it's over 200,000 views in making lineups alone. Surely there could be some sponsorship money there.
Yeah, but let's go back to the venture capitalist message, and I think they invest more energy in growing the user base. Actually, I do think that that's what they do, and they have like their well. So let's do let's do some role play, okay, Andrew? So you're Nicolas Julia, okay? And so I've come with you with like the numbers I've started the show with. So we're making twice less money than before, right? So what are you saying to your teams? So what are you saying to your marketing team, and what are you saying to your gameplay team?
That everything's about getting more users. We need more users. Go find more users, please.
Well, marketing will say, okay, boss, we'll find new users, right? But gameplay will say, yeah, well, how do we make new user through gameplay, boss? How do we do that?
You just make them more excited. You give away better rewards.
No, I do think that, like, I think that the main message from leadership has to be something like, we need more revenue. We need to find ways to actually make more revenue. And I think that's like the fitness proposition that we didn't see was about making more revenue. And I think that they saw community backlash, and they saw that they were kind of renouncing also on the promise, like, own your game and stuff like that. And they say, probably we shouldn't do that, or we should do it differently. But they didn't like give up on it. They are like, it's just like going to be later. So keep your pitchforks out. The fight is not over, my friends. Workers of the world, unite. Well, Sorare players of the world, unite.
I think that is important, that there was no part of the fitness update that they were like, okay, we won't do this. We're not going to do this. It's clearly like all right, we're going to just rebrand this and maybe change something so you guys don't realize it's the same thing.
It's going to be Fitness by Nike. And that's the difference.
Oh, no. No, I think the whole point of this is that if you don't continue to grow the number of users, you need to find a different way to make money. And one of the easiest ways to make it is from your existing users who have already trusted you with putting money on your platform. Doesn't mean you're milking them, but like, you need to find another way to make them pay.
Or spend less money. That's also another way to look at things. And we didn't see like communications or stuff like that, but I don't know what like the number of employees at Sorare is. I don't know like licensing deals. We've seen some press articles, not specifically talking about Sorare, but other like fantasy companies with similar deals to Sorare that were like basically the articles were saying that the deals were renegotiated because the fees were too high and they were dealt during like bull market and stuff like that. So I think that there's also like one team that we didn't mention was the partnership team that was like, okay, boss, we're going to renegotiate all our deals. And that goes also into the category of like maybe removing some licensing agreements or not renewing some because they were not profitable enough. And you have like a small like good side effect with that is that you reduce the number of cards that you actually issuing during that season. And so like you're putting less pressure on your market.
But the end result was not actually that. I think one of the things that, I don't know if they overlooked it or didn't think it was as much of a consideration, is what happened if you lose certain licenses and replace them with different ones. And so we had like Minero, River Plate, PSG. Inter, Juventus, now not licensed, and they're like, no, don't worry, we got La Liga Smart Bank to fill that. Well, we're fine, and nobody wants those. Realistically, wants those cards, and so
it's
the
not La Liga
licensing
Smart
part of
Bank
it is,
anymore, Andrew. It's La
oh, is it?
Liga.
Oh, you're right.
It's well, wait, I'm going to
Horizon
tell you.
something.
No, it's very like punchy. La Liga Hypermotion 2023-2024.
Right. All caps.
And La Liga EA Sports.
EA Sport. Yeah. So I want to go to this question from Mike Baston, because I think there's one big part of this that a lot of people bring up, but they're also ignoring. He said 18 months in now, was the move into the American sports worthwhile, or has it pushed them back a few steps? One thing I think we've talked about on this show, that these licenses aren't just available all the time. And I think that there was a point when they got these licenses that the NBA and MLB were putting them out there, making them available. And if you don't get them, it's possible that it could be 5 years, 10 years before they're available again. So you have to take, it's kind of like when you're raising money. If somebody's willing to give you hundreds of millions of dollars at a certain valuation, like sometimes you just have to take that money, and sometimes you just have to spend it in that situation. I also don't think that they get a $4.6 billion valuation and the hundreds of millions of investment without the expectation that they would get the US sport licenses. Like, I don't think that they're worth 4.7 billion with just a football product.
Yeah, but do you need them?
I think you needed them to get that money.
No, I think it's very simple to look at things today and say, oh, you probably shouldn't have done those deals 2 years ago on NBA and MLB because you didn't convince your user base, or at least you didn't convince a new user base. I think it's easy to say that now that we've seen the results. But I guess you're right. I guess like you don't raise 680 million on a football product. I guess you say that you're going to go towards like all major sports, and major sports are basketball and are baseball in the US. But football, I guess they went on that deal also. And I guess like, so someone said earlier, the DraftKings is very different in terms of like philosophy and like the gameplay and etc. And I agree with that. But you're fighting with them on deals like that because they are branded as like NFT fantasy sports. And so even if the gameplay is different and the philosophy is different, you're fighting with them on those deals. And so, yeah, I guess you had to get them what you could. But we will come to the discussion at some point in time. Was it worth it? And I'm pretty sure that today you can probably say that it caused more challenges than successes. But maybe in 5 years, it's going to be like the only fantasy game that people will be playing, the NBA fantasy game people will be playing. So, I mean, it's just like making the evaluation at this moment in time. But I think like if you have like a positive outlook on the field and on the ecosystem, like the NFT fantasy sports ecosystem, you feel like very good about like owning those rights going forward.
I think that's, yeah, I completely agree with that. Mike said, from saying that, then did they take those licenses too soon in their company's development? So let's say you have something that you think is worth $100. And somebody's like, hi, I'd like to give you some money. And that thing that you think is worth $100, I think is worth 10 million. Do you take that money? And the answer is always yes. Like, always yes. But that money was reliant on these US sport licenses, surely. And so it's one of those, like, if you don't take that, you could never get them. And your company could never be worth that much money. And you just miss out on all of the upside that you had.
Well, we could have like a a very like philosophical like discussion on, do you need to be that big? And
Sure.
and I don't think you need to be that big. I think that you could have settled for a 1 to 2 billion valuation just with the football product, and raise like a lot of money just to have like all the football licenses in the world, and just stop there and just say, you. I mean, again, it's very easy to say that after everything actually like happened, but you also knew that you were in a bull market at that point, and that these market conditions were not going to last forever, and you had to prepare for a bear market that was going to happen at some point in time. You didn't know when, but you knew that it was going to happen. So you could have said at that point, I'm just going to wait until the next like hype cycle to actually go on the NBA and MLB, but with the possibility that you never get those at that time.
Yeah. Surface said one interesting point about this conversation is that we've been having this discussion for 4 years, which I'm not sure just that we need more users or that there needs to be a different revenue. I'm not sure what.
Well, no, different avenue. I've heard this conversation so many times in the Discord server we're in. It's yeah, Surface is right when he says that we have been talking about this for quite some time. But
Yeah. And Fling Flong's asking about users of Rainmakers versus Sorare. He said, I was under the impression traction was much lower and they have an entire sports book plus DFS to convert an existing brand awareness. So I think Rainmakers, let me ask you this way. How big do you think Rainmakers NFL could be if it was available worldwide?
I don't know. I think like I don't know, maybe 10%, 20% more than what they do right now. I think that NFL is very popular in the US, but not that popular in other countries. I'm a big NFL fan, and I know in the UK, in Germany, it's becoming a very popular sport. But I don't think that like the Rainmaker's success is actually like success or failure is attached to its geolocation. But to answer the question, so they have like, they have those free NFTs that they give away to start with, the starter pack they give away, and so you have like more than 600,000 users with at least one NFT, including those starter packs. And I didn't check the latest numbers, but actually it's like around 10% of that number that own a listable, so a sellable NFT, which is actually pretty good for. I agree with the fact that DraftKings is a big brand and they have a sports book, etc. But I don't see any DraftKings Rainmakers commercials yet. I don't see them pushing the product that much, and I don't see like. I think we have to end up the show on something very important, and I think like most people forget about. I'll come to that a bit later on, but yeah. It's pretty impressive for an NFT product to have like more than 50K paying users, and they have like more than $100 million in all-time volume, and that's only for the football product. And if you compare to US sports on Sorare, it's just way bigger. And I think that I'm sorry to say that, but the NBA product and the MLB product for Sorare was more like profiting for the football user base than profiting from like users that didn't exist. And that's also why I think that launch was a bit rushed, and when the question was like, did they take a few steps back because of it? I think they did, because it took some money out of the football product, but it did not like get new money in. Anyway, yeah, go ahead if you have something to say about that.
Do you think it's possible, because the user base at this point is still very small for Sorare, NBA, and MLB, that they start completely new and use the Rainmakers model of new cards every year that you need to buy?
First thing you should do is use the same supply amount than your main product. And yeah, maybe you should do that, because I think that the US, the main problem I see with the NBA and the MLB product is that you cannot compete with other NBA and MLB fantasy products in the US in terms of like winnings. And like making advertisements and commercials on like, oh, you can own your game, and the next commercial is FanDuel saying you can make 10 million, like we're distributing 10 million over the next months on fantasy NBA, come play with us. I mean, if I had the choice, I know where I would be playing. It's a no-brainer. And so I think you have to have a different model for that, but that's for another discussion. But I think the final point is Sorare is an NFT product for many people, and the NFT ecosystem and the NFT's reputation is very bad. And I think that's when you add that to the recent market crashes we had on Sorare, I think it's so difficult for people to tell their friends, oh, hey, I'm playing that game. It's great. You can play Sorare. You have 5 cards. You can play those cards and sell them, etc. And I think like what made Sorare so great at the beginning is that people wanted to talk to their friends about it. And I think that kind of like organic growth has stopped because of like the changes we had on the gameplay, because of the crashes we had. And I think like if you add that to that, the reputation of the NFT sector as a whole, it's you're you have so much to overcome. So that's very difficult to actually acquire new users, because you're like, sometimes you're saying, oh no, we're not a Web3 company because no, we're a fantasy sports company. No Web3, no ETH, just pay with cash. But also when it's good, you say, oh, we are a Web3 company. Look at other Web3 companies. They went through the bear market like shit, and us, we were like very good during the bear market. And so I think that was a joke aside, but I think like really it's something that is going to take years before like people actually adopt or totally reject NFT products.
Let's hope they don't reject them.
Well, I'm convinced. I'm 100% convinced it's like so much better than just like betting on a single game or on an outcome. And I feel like playing Sorare is one of the best experiences I had in terms of like let's say fantasy sports. And I do think that it needs to overcome and replace typical sports betting as a whole, because it's just like as in terms of player experience, it's just way better in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Let's leave it for that. That was a lot. Nanzo brought up Top Shot, and I don't even want to go down that avenue. I'll just say that Rainmakers is not a shiny new thing. Like it is now like full second season. It's as shiny as Sorare NBA.
I do agree in the fact that it's kind of new for us, and we see obviously advantages, but also we see like differences from the Sorare ecosystem. But I don't think that I think that when you see new stuff and other stuff, you're like easily amazed and easily like you can change your mind on those things. But I think that they have like other problems, but they solve the sustainability problem by like just like having a totally different philosophy. And it's probably not the right one for Sorare, but it does not solve the problems that Sorare has today.
Well, at least we went an hour and 15 minutes and didn't solve any problem whatsoever. But again, we don't work there. It's not our job to solve the problems. But no, I think the point of this whole show was fundamentally to talk about what needs to be just like considered with all of the issues around sustainability. And we talk about getting more revenue out of existing users. It's not because they need to forget about new users. Obviously, we know that they need new users, as the graphic says down there. But at some point, you're not going to have this tremendous growth that they've had. And so ultimately, you need to find more ways. And hopefully we got people to think about that. So thank you to everybody for joining. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny, who I saw earlier. And yeah, have fun out there.